Jack was astonished to discover that the 11-year-old girl standing before him had an unbelievable S-level talent in magic, even surpassing her father's combat strength. Immediately, he made up his mind to recruit this prodigy to his side. Jack possessed the unique ability to see through the innate talents of others. In this war-torn alternate world, his plan was to meet and recruit talented individuals from a young age, gradually building his own faction. Despite the chaotic times, he was determined to carve out his own future. In his past life, Jack had been an ordinary office worker who died from overwork. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself face to face with a stunning beauty and a flying dog. It wasn't until a maid handed him a mirror that he realized he had been reborn in another world. Time flew by, and Jack, now 2.5 years old, had started to understand the dynamics of this new world. Originally, the 6 major kingdoms were in constant war until they eventually unified into an empire. His family, though only a small noble house with just over 1,000 people, lived quite comfortably, with numerous maids taking care of daily affairs and a dedicated chef preparing meals. More importantly, Jack discovered that he had been born with a special ability. One day, while at the training grounds, he witnessed a young soldier being reprimanded for his lack of skill. After activating his power, Jack immediately saw that the soldier was highly talented in archery, but had chosen the wrong path, which had led him to be at the bottom. Jack approached and asked if the soldier knew how to use a bow. The soldier disdainfully replied that he didn't care for ranged combat, believing that ambushing was beneath a true man. After some insistence from Jack, the soldier reluctantly gave it a try and his first arrow hit the bullseye. Amid the astonished cries of the crowd, he shot several more arrows, all of which hit their mark. The soldier immediately decided to switch to archery, and Jack was asked how he had known about his talent. Jack, caught off guard, merely shrugged and said it was intuition. When this incident reached his father's ears, his father advised him to hone this intuition, as it would be crucial for inheriting the title of Lord. Jack took the advice to heart, but secretly used his ability to assess his father's talents, and the results shocked him. Not only did his father have an S-level ability, but his combat strength was a staggering 95. By the age of 30, he had already become an imperial noble. As for Jack himself, he had no magic talent and no potential for combat. He buried himself in studying the Empire's records. The more he read, the more uneasy he became. The Empire was already in decay, with constant peasant uprisings and local nobles amassing armies. The Empire was on the verge of splitting apart. If war broke out, Jack would have to lead troops into battle, but he had no strength to protect himself. Fortunately, he still had his ability to assess others. Since his own power was lacking, he would use this skill to scout for talent and build his own forces. Jack disguised himself and went out onto the streets to evaluate the talents of the passers-by, but all he saw were C and D level individuals, average at best. After using his power repeatedly, his eyes began to tire. Then, he saw a man lying by the roadside, with people around him showing disdain. This man was a Marga, an ethnic group from across the sea, most of whom had been sold into slavery. Jack couldn't bear to see him like this and offered him a loaf of bread. The man thanked him and ate, and Jack instinctively activated his ability, only to be struck speechless by what he saw. The man, named Lids, was a once-in-a-lifetime genius with both combat and strategy skills at S-level. Jack immediately approached and directly stated that he wanted to recruit him as a vassal. Lids assumed the child was joking, but when Jack revealed his identity as the son of a lord, Lids still politely declined. Jack, however, tempted him with the promise of fine food and eventually managed to bring him back to his manor. The butler rushed to report this to Jack's father. Initially, his father refused, but after recalling the incident with the soldier, he reluctantly agreed on one condition: Lids must land a single strand of hair on him during a swordsmanship duel. Jack was worried for Lids, knowing his father's strength